really interesting. I mean, sadly the pandemic has had an impact on a lot of young people's lives, but those skills and experiences of, that normal are absolutely constant.
For years, Prince Edward has stood quietly at the edge of royal turmoil, watching storms rise and fall without ever stepping into the spotlight. But now, in a rare and startling moment, he has broken his silence, sharing a warning he once whispered behind palace doors. A warning he now admits came far too late. His calm voice carries the weight of regret, buried secrets, and choices that can no longer be undone. So who exactly was he trying to warn? And why is he choosing to reveal it now? The silent prince who watched from the shadows. For decades, the British monarchy generated headlines like a storm that never ran out of lightning. One moment, a scandal burst open like a firework in the night. Another moment, royal siblings clashed behind palace doors, while the public watched with hungry eyes. Fairy tale weddings drew millions to their screens, while explosive tell-all interviews shattered the image of a perfect royal family. Through all of this noise, every senior royal became a global fascination. Every one of them except one. Prince Edward, the quietest of them all, the royal who somehow slipped between the headlines like a ghost, the son of Queen Elizabeth who never made the front page unless reporters were desperate for content. To many people, he was almost invisible, calm, polite, steady, and completely unproblematic. He behaved as if silence was not just a habit, but a skill he had perfected for survival. While King Charles wrestled with decades of public scrutiny, while Princess Anne won the admiration of the world with her strong will and no-nonsense attitude, while Prince Andrew drowned in controversy and dragged the monarchy into its darkest moments, Prince Edward stayed the one constant: gentle, loyal, with no scandals, no dramatic interviews, and no shocking missteps. Some people even joked that he was the only royal who could stroll through Buckingham Palace without a single paparazzi camera turning his way. He lived in the background, quietly fulfilling his duties, unbothered by the spotlight that swallowed the rest of his family. But then something unexpected happened, something no one saw coming. With a single statement, a short moment of honesty, the silent prince broke the very rule that had defined him for years. And in just 5 simple words, he cracked open a mystery that sent shockwaves across the world. "I tried to warn her." Those words hit like thunder. Social media went wild within minutes. Royal reporters scrambled to understand what he meant. Experts began debating on live television. People everywhere asked the same burning questions. Who exactly did he warn? What danger did he see coming? And why would a man known for absolute silence suddenly choose to speak now? The royal who had lived in the shadows instantly became the center of a storm he never asked for. Curious fans rushed back to old clips, past interviews, small comments, even tiny facial expressions, hoping to discover clues they might have missed before. Every past remark began to look like a puzzle piece. Suddenly, his earlier statements about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle resurfaced. Edward had once described their situation as very sad. He had openly admitted that the royal spotlight can crush even the strongest person. He acknowledged that every member of the family struggles with public pressure in their own way. And then there was the moment that went viral. The dry, almost sarcastic response he and Sophie gave when asked about Harry and Meghan's Oprah interview. Oprah? Who? What interview? It sounded like harmless humor at the time, the kind of royal banter meant to soften tension. But after his 5-word revelation, many wondered if it had been something more. Perhaps a wall, a shield, or even a warning wrapped in a joke. People began to ask, had Prince Edward been seeing trouble long before the rest of the world noticed? Had he tried to guide someone? Did he see a storm coming that others ignored? What made his sudden honesty even more powerful was the fact that Edward had always been the watcher, not the talker. He moved quietly, listened carefully, and learned from the mistakes of others. While louder royals battled headlines, Edward understood the deeper cost of fame, pressure, and public expectation. And now the world finally understood something it had overlooked for years. The man who rarely spoke had been observing everything. He had been paying attention. He had understood more than anyone ever imagined. The quiet prince had finally broken his silence. And with those 5 little words, he became the most intriguing member of the royal family. How heavy were the 5 words Prince Edward uttered? Which tone did he use in making the statement? Let's delve into the details of the whisper that became a thunderclap. The 5 words that changed everything. For most of his life, Prince Edward carried himself like a man who understood the value of peace. While the world often saw the British royal family as a stage filled with drama, tension, and unending headlines, he somehow managed to move quietly through it all. He avoided scandals with almost professional skill. He refused to involve himself in the bitter disagreements that sometimes divided the family. And whenever trouble seemed ready to erupt between relatives, Edward was usually the one who stepped in to calm the waters. He was the gentle voice, the one person everyone trusted to keep things steady. But then came a moment no one expected. An interruption in his usual silence that shook the public more than the loudest royal controversies. It happened with just 5 simple words that slipped out and traveled around the world. I tried to warn her. There was no added explanation, no context, no careful royal clarity. Just a short sentence that felt like a window into something deeply unsettling. Those words sent shockwaves through the media, through royal followers, and through anyone who had ever wondered what truly happens behind palace walls. Who was he talking about? What warning had he given? And why did he say it now, after years of avoiding any form of public drama? Immediately, questions filled the air. Was he referring to Meghan Markle and the challenges she faced when stepping into royal life? Was he talking about the heavy pressure that comes with titles, duties, and endless scrutiny? Or perhaps he meant the harsh, unrelenting nature of the British press, something even seasoned royals struggle to survive. Maybe his warning had been emotional rather than practical, tied to the stress, loneliness, and invisible weight that seems to accompany life in the monarchy. What made his statement even more mysterious was that the world could not decide whether he was expressing regret, frustration, sorrow, or all 3 at once. It was as if he had witnessed something unfolding, something painful, something preventable, and yet had been unable to stop it. And the truth is, maybe we will never know exactly what he meant. But one thing was clear. Those 5 quiet words changed everything. In that single moment, the world remembered that Prince Edward was not simply the royal who kept to himself or the one who always stayed in the background. He was not just the mild-mannered youngest brother, the man rarely associated with drama or headlines. Instead, he became someone whose silence suddenly felt meaningful, even heavy. Someone who had been observing, absorbing, and understanding the royal machine more deeply than anyone had ever imagined. The public began to look at him with new curiosity, because someone who stays silent for so long often sees more than the rest. Someone who watches quietly tends to understand the patterns others ignore. And Edward, the man who avoided attention for decades, now appeared to be the one royal who truly comprehended the dangers and emotional costs of living under constant public judgment. His words did not simply break the silence. They revealed layers that had been hidden for years. They hinted at pain, at wisdom, and at experiences the public had never considered. They suggested that Edward had carried truths and observations that no one had ever asked him to share. And when he finally allowed just one of those truths to slip out, even in the smallest way, the world realized that perhaps the quietest royal had been holding the loudest story all along. Suddenly, Prince Edward transformed from the reserved one into one of the most intriguing members of the monarchy. People wanted to know more. What did he see? What did he try to stop? And who had he been trying to protect? His 5 words did not give answers, but they awakened curiosity, profoundly humanized him, and reminded the world that silence is sometimes the clearest sign of understanding. And now, more than ever, the world wants to hear the story he has never told. Why were fingers pointed at Meghan Markle? Did she make statements that suggest something out of place? Let's dive into the details of Meghan's emotional and cultural battle within the palace. The other side of royalty. Meghan revealed during the interview that when she entered royal life, she did so with almost no real guidance, no preparedness, and no one to show her the ropes. She described how strange and confusing it all felt, using a simple but powerful example. Her very first meeting with Queen Elizabeth II. She explained that she had no idea she was expected to curtsy to the Queen, not just at formal events, but even in private casual moments. According to her, the expectation seemed to everyone else like common knowledge, but to her it was completely new and unexpected. She shared that Prince Harry had to pull her aside right outside the door, quickly teaching her how to curtsy just minutes before she was introduced to Her Majesty. Meghan described this moment as a symbol of the culture shock she experienced. It brought to light how little orientation she received and how unprepared she was for the deeply traditional world she was entering. What many people assumed she must have learned from childhood, or at least before joining the family, turned out to be a confusing maze of unspoken rules. These sudden expectations, combined with the pressure of public life, created a sense of being constantly out of place. For many royal observers, this was a red flag. They believed it showed she stepped into the institution without fully understanding its expectations or respecting its long-standing traditions, and that this lack of preparation may have caused tension from the start. The story painted a picture of a newcomer walking into a world where every movement, every gesture, and every silence had meaning. Yet she had to figure it out on her own. Meghan also opened up about one of the darkest moments of her life, revealing that during her time as a working royal, she struggled with extremely severe suicidal thoughts. She confessed that there came a point when she didn't want to be alive anymore, a moment she described as her emotional breaking point. This was not a passing thought, but a deep and frightening struggle that she felt she could not ignore. She said she reached out for help from the institution, asking for some form of mental health support. According to her, she was told no, not because her pain was not real, but because it would not look good for the monarchy. This revelation shocked the world. It highlighted not only her emotional suffering, but also a system that, as she described it, placed appearance above human well-being. Critics argued that raising such a private, painful issue on a global stage painted the royal family as cold, unfeeling, or negligent, intensifying the emotional impact of the interview. Supporters, however, praised her for her bravery, saying that speaking out could help others facing similar struggles. Yet detractors believed it caused further damage to the monarchy's image, deepening the divide between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family. Another major claim Meghan made was that after joining the royal family, she was effectively silenced. She said she was told not to speak up, not to correct false media stories, and not to defend herself, even when other members of the family were being publicly protected. According to her, the institution allowed untrue stories about her to spread in order to maintain the polished image of more senior royals. She explained that this created a system where hierarchy mattered more than fairness, and where public perception mattered more than emotional safety. To some, her statements exposed structural issues within the monarchy, issues of power, control, and selective protection. But to others, Going public with such accusations was seen as a major misstep, a decision that only added more heat to an already tense relationship between the Sussexes and the royal household. In the end, her revelations painted a picture of a woman stepping into an ancient institution with no map, no voice, and no safety net, trying to survive in a world that expected perfection while offering little support in return. Going back to Prince Edward's statement, was he simply doing his duty or trying to make headlines? Let's dig further into the details of his journey to becoming a duke. A title delayed, a legacy renewed. Prince Edward's world shifted in a profound and unforgettable way in 2023. It happened the moment King Charles officially granted him the historic title Duke of Edinburgh, a title that had been closely tied to their strong, disciplined, and unforgettable father, Prince Philip, for more than 7 decades. This wasn't a surprise move, and it certainly wasn't something anyone considered sudden. Yet the moment carried a weight that went far beyond royal tradition, family loyalty, and public ceremony. It felt deeper, more personal, almost like the closing of one era and the quiet opening of another. For years, everyone knew the dukedom of Edinburgh was intended for Edward. Prince Philip had made his wish known long before his passing. But after his death, the title sat in a strange waiting room, neither forgotten nor fulfilled. People wondered why. Would King Charles follow through with his father's desire? Or would shifting royal dynamics, changing priorities, or silent political considerations lead to a different decision? The public, the press, and royal followers around the world watched closely, their curiosity growing with every passing month. Some whispered about new strategies within the monarchy. Others speculated that the modern royal family might be rearranging its internal roles. A few even suggested that Edward, known for being quiet and reserved, might simply fade behind the scenes. Yet through it all, Edward continued his steady, undramatic service, doing the work, attending engagements, supporting causes, and stepping forward when needed, never demanding the spotlight. Then, on the morning of his 59th birthday, the long-awaited announcement was finally made. The title was his. The promise had been fulfilled. And in that moment, something about Prince Edward's place in the royal story shifted. It felt almost symbolic, like watching a gentle, dependable figure finally step into a light he had quietly earned for decades. If the royal family was a stage, he had spent much of his life behind the curtains, holding the ropes, adjusting the lights, ensuring everything ran smoothly. Now, at last, the applause reached him. Along with him, his wife Sophie received the title Duchess of Edinburgh, and in true Sophie fashion, she stepped into it with a blend of humility, warmth, and natural elegance that instantly won public admiration. She carried the title not as an ornament, but as a responsibility, one she embraced without fuss, without theatrics, and without the need to reinvent herself. But what made the moment even more intriguing was Prince Edward's unusual path toward royal titles in the first place. Long before becoming Duke of Edinburgh, he had already made a choice that revealed more about his personality than most people realized. Originally, he had been expected to receive the prestigious title Duke of Cambridge, the very title later given to Prince William. But Edward made an unexpected request. He asked for something different, something unusual, something that stood out from traditional royal naming patterns. Inspired by a character in the film Shakespeare in Love, he chose to become the Earl of Wessex. Not because history demanded it, and not because protocol required it, but simply because he liked the name. That single decision, quiet, thoughtful, personal, offered a rare glimpse into who Edward really is. A man who does not push for attention, but who knows what he wants. A royal who respects tradition, but is not confined by it. someone who moves with gentleness but stands firm when it matters. And so, when he finally became the Duke of Edinburgh, it felt like the natural completion of a long, steady journey. A journey built not on scandals, noise, or dramatic public moments, but on years of quiet service, unwavering loyalty, and a kind of consistent dependability that often goes unnoticed. The title didn't just elevate him, it acknowledged him. It affirmed his place in a family, a legacy, and a nation's history. It transformed the quiet one into a royal figure whose lifelong commitment had finally received the recognition it deserved. What kind of life has he maintained behind the spotlight? How has his quiet life impacted his love life? Let's find out. A love story built on steadiness, storms, and unshakable devotion. Behind the gilded curtain of royal life, beyond the headlines about titles, ceremonies, and public duties, lies a story far richer, warmer, and more compelling than any tabloid could capture: the enduring love of Edward and Sophie. In a family often defined by turbulent relationships, fleeting romances, and public scandals, theirs stands out as one of the most steadfast and emotionally grounded marriages in modern royal history. Their story is not one of instant attraction or dramatic fireworks. It is a testament to patience, understanding, and quiet devotion. Edward and Sophie first crossed paths in 1987, yet love did not strike immediately. Instead, what began between them was a slow, careful friendship, one built on shared humor, mutual respect, and a deep appreciation for the ordinary joys of life outside royal obligations. It wasn't until 6 years later, at a charity sports event where Sophie was working in public relations, that sparks of romance finally emerged. Their connection was subtle, unassuming, and utterly different from the tempestuous relationships often splashed across newspapers. They bonded over laughter, a calm approach to life's challenges, and a shared desire to be valued for who they were, rather than who the public expected them to be. Yet the glare of the media was relentless. Sophie, an outsider to the royal family, soon found herself the subject of intrusive reporting and speculative gossip. Many would have buckled under the scrutiny, but Edward responded in a way that was rare for a man of his station. He became her steadfast protector. He did not confront the press with aggression. Instead, he made heartfelt appeals for respect and decency, defending her with sincerity and quiet determination. Their engagement in 1999 reflected this same ethos. Rather than staging a lavish, headline-grabbing royal wedding, they chose simplicity and elegance, keeping the focus on their union rather than pomp or spectacle. Their marriage, however, was not without profound challenges. Sophie endured a near-fatal ectopic pregnancy, a harrowing experience that could have tested even the strongest relationships. Shortly after, the couple faced the premature birth of their daughter, Lady Louise, a moment that combined joy with overwhelming concern for their child's well-being. Public scrutiny intensified when a journalist, masquerading as a sheikh, created a scandal that threatened to tarnish Sophie's reputation. Compounding these personal trials were the sacrifices required by royal life. Both Edward and Sophie set aside their professional careers, navigating the tension between personal ambition and public duty. Through years of relentless attention, global scrutiny, and the shifting dynamics of family and duty, they endured. Yet, what defines Edward and Sophie's story is not the adversity they faced, but how they faced it, together. Every challenge strengthened their bond, transforming their marriage into a true partnership built on loyalty, empathy, and resilience. Sophie's tribute to Edward during his 60th birthday celebration captured this beautifully. Her words were tender and unflinching, acknowledging him as her rock, her anchor, and the lighthouse that guided her through life's storms. Even the often stoic prince was visibly moved, a rare public glimpse of the profound connection that sustains them. In a royal landscape often marred by fractured relationships and emotional distance, Edward and Sophie's marriage offers a refreshing and inspiring contrast. Their love is quiet but powerful, grounded in genuine partnership rather than spectacle. It thrives not on drama or public acclaim, but on trust, devotion, and the simple, unwavering decision to face life's challenges hand in hand. For those who follow the royals, their story is more than just a romance. It is a rare example of a marriage that embodies resilience, understanding, and enduring love. In the end, Edward and Sophie remind us that true strength in a relationship does not always announce itself with grandeur or drama. Sometimes, it is the quiet, steadfast bond, built over years of friendship, fortified through trials, and nurtured with unwavering commitment, that becomes the most extraordinary story of all. Their journey, shielded from scandal and filled with loyalty, offers a model of love that endures not because it is flashy, but because it is real, heartfelt, and enduringly human. Does Edward's quiet life suggest his inactivity? Does he impact the world in his own way? Let's take a look at Prince Edward's service to humanity. A lifetime of service, integrity, and global impact without seeking the spotlight. While many members of the royal family seemed caught up in the whirlwind of public attention, or at times desperately tried to avoid it, Prince Edward charted a very different path. He chose substance over spectacle, building a legacy grounded in consistent, hands-on service rather than fleeting headlines or ceremonial appearances. His approach to royal duty was not about being seen, but about making a genuine difference, quietly and persistently. At the heart of Edward's lifelong commitment is the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, a program that has reshaped the lives of countless young people by fostering leadership, self-discipline, and resilience through adventure and challenge. Unlike some royals who lend their names to causes, Edward fully immersed himself in the initiative from an early age. He didn't merely inherit the program, he experienced it firsthand, completing its challenges as a young man, and gaining a deep understanding of the value it offered to youth. This personal connection set him apart, showing that his support was authentic and informed by experience. Edward's dedication extends beyond mere advocacy. One of his most remarkable personal achievements involved traveling across the globe to play on every existing real tennis court, a quest that raised over £2 million for charity. This was not a ceremonial act or a photo opportunity. It was a demonstration of endurance, commitment, and true devotion to a cause. Such efforts reveal a side of royalty rarely highlighted. The quiet labor of someone who is willing to dedicate time, effort, and energy to making a real impact. Beyond this extraordinary feat, Edward supports more than 70 charities, spanning a remarkable range of causes. He champions youth development programs, invests in educational initiatives, nurtures performing arts, promotes athletic endeavors, strengthens local communities, and advocates for international empowerment. His influence reaches far and wide, touching lives in multiple sectors and countries, reflecting a modern approach to royal responsibility that prioritizes action over visibility. Edward's role extends internationally, particularly across the Commonwealth, where he has embraced leadership positions that require both dedication and sensitivity. His travels have taken him to Kenya, Ghana, Chile, and numerous other nations, often to celebrate young achievers in remote regions. By shining a spotlight on these emerging leaders, Edward elevates their work and aspirations, embodying the principle that true influence is measured not by status, but by the empowerment of others. His work has occasionally drawn controversy, most notably during his 2011 visit to Bahrain. But even with these moments of critique, Edward's overall record stands out for its integrity and focus. He is not a royal defined by scandal or headline-grabbing antics. Instead, he is a figure whose contributions are tangible and enduring. After assuming the title of Duke of Edinburgh, Edward, alongside his wife Sophie, intensified their philanthropic efforts. Their compassion has been particularly evident in moments of crisis, such as when they visited Ukrainian war refugees in Scotland, offering comfort, support, and a human touch in the face of unimaginable hardship. These gestures underscore a defining feature of Edward's public life: empathy. His service is not performative. It is heartfelt, practical, and responsive to real human need. Edward's life offers a compelling lesson in leadership and influence. While the world often measures power in volume, visibility, or dramatic gestures, Edward demonstrates that true strength can be quiet, steady, and profoundly impactful. His legacy is built not on the fleeting glare of the spotlight, but on the lasting effects of commitment, empathy, and meaningful action. In a world where celebrity often overshadows service, Edward stands as a reminder that dedication, humility, and purposeful engagement can leave an indelible mark on society. So, was Edward truly referring to Meghan Markle? What would Meghan's comments cost the monarchy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.